How's it going, guys? So today I'm going to be answering one of the questions I see far too often online, and that is, what wattage heat light should I use? It's a bit of a complex question. It's not as simple an answer as people think. So let's get into it. So when setting up a heating option for your scaly friends, it's important to consider a few different factors, such as the type of enclosure you're using, the sort of ventilation it has, what your ambient temperatures are like around where you are, as well as the animal's needs. So when looking for a heating option for your animals, the wattage is not the only important thing to consider. You also have to consider what kind of light you're actually using. So this here is a floodlight. This puts out a wide beam and really heats up a massive area as well as a good hot spot. Whereas a little halogen like this really makes a focused point underneath the light where it's extremely hot, but it doesn't greatly heat up the rest of the enclosure. So something like that would be great for a mountain dragon species or other cold species like these guys. So I use them on these guys so it doesn't heat up the entire enclosure, because they come from a nice cool environment, so they can have their little perches where they can get nice and warm, but the rest of the enclosure can stay quite cool so they can effectively thermoregulate. Whereas your floodlight will be useful for stuff like your western blueies here that come from the desert, where they like a nice big baking hot side, hot spot, nice and dry and really warmed up. So that's what I use for these guys to really cook them. So the basic principle of your light wattages means the higher the wattage, the more heat it's going to produce. But there's a few things that you can do to optimize these settings. As you can see, if I measure the temperatures under each of these lights, there's a considerable difference. You have 60 degrees there and 44 degrees there. So obviously the larger wattage pumps out a lot more heat. But that doesn't mean you should just go for the larger wattage light based on that reason alone, because as you can see, this enclosure is massive. If you have only a small enclosure and you put a big light like that on there, you could just end up cooking the animal or making it so the animal cannot thermoregulate because it just heats up the entire enclosure too much. So to fix such a problem, what you would have to do is simply get the smaller heat light, and then if that doesn't reach your temperatures on the basking spot, all you'd simply have to do is lower that light closer to the basking spot until it reaches the achieved temperature, and it's that simple. And when I say lowering the light closer to the basking spot, that also means you could raise up the level of the basking spot as, you know, a rock or substrate in the enclosure, raise it up so it's closer to that light, and it'll do the same thing. Then after multiple checks with your temp gun to ensure the temperatures are right, you should have no problems. So whilst it is important to get the right wattage that'll accurately reach your temperatures you desire for your species, whilst not overcooking the entire enclosure, that alone won't be safe enough for your animals, depending on your enclosure setup. If it's a completely open top, you might be able to get away with it, but even on a really hot day, things can overheat. So you want to always be using a thermostat. Thermostats are obviously critical in maintaining your temperatures and ensuring it does not get too hot in there. If you don't know how a thermostat works, it basically allows the light to go on until it reaches a certain temperature, and once it gets past that temperature, it turns the light off, allowing it to cool. So for those of you that are still new and still wondering what light wattage you should start off with, I'd recommend just going by your enclosure size. If you have a smaller enclosure, start off with a medium to smaller range wattage light. If you have a larger enclosure, obviously go a bit larger, and then just test your temperatures from there. Work with your thermostat, see what works best for you and your animals, and just go from there. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to see more videos on how to take care of Australian reptiles, make sure you subscribe. Leave any comments below on any future questions or videos you want to see, and I'll see you next time.